Hello. Do you want to build your career in web development? Then, JavaScript is one of the 3 languages that every web developer must learn. So from this JavaScript full course video, you will learn the concepts of JavaScript, right from the basics. In this JavaScript full course session, we are going to learn JavaScript basics, statements, loops, functions, classes, objects, hosting, HTML DOM, working with forms, validating forms. Before we proceed, like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel.
Hi, welcome to HKR Trainings. So today we will look into basics of JavaScript. So when we hear about this JavaScript, so JavaScript is a text-based programming language. So where we can actually use this on client side and server side, which enables the web pages interactive. That is, let's say if you click any button and if you want to do any interactive things, so in that case this JavaScript can be used. So like whenever if we hear about these web pages, so we mostly see regarding this HTML, CSS and JavaScript. And HTML and CSS are they give a structure and styling to the web page, whereas in JavaScript it actually enables the web page interactive. So that is, a user can actually perform something. Maybe he can submit the button, or maybe he can log in into some maybe Facebook or something. So yeah, that is where we use this JavaScript. So actually, where to write the JavaScript code? So like mostly if you're familiar with HTML, so we'll be placing the body and the paragraph things under HTML tags. Similarly, if we want to write anything related to JavaScript, so we will be keeping inside this JavaScript tags. So yeah, we'll be seeing in the live demo. So JavaScript output. So JavaScript can actually display data in different ways. So like inner HTML, document.write. So all these things we'll see in live, so that it will be you can actually understand. So yeah, first we'll see regarding this inner HTML. So like how we can actually perform this. So for that I'm using Sublime as a text editor. So we'll provide the link to download regarding this Sublime, like where you can actually download and you can actually write some code. This is one thing regarding this inner HTML. So where we will be passing this kind of text like paragraph changed, or maybe even we can say like good morning. So likewise. So and then we'll be saving this. So let's see like how we can actually run this. This is the file where I saved this. So let me open this in Chrome, and you can actually see this in action. See, click me to change my inner HTML content. So if I click this, something will happen. Good morning. So this is how inner HTML actually works. So let's go to other point, that is document.write. Let's see like one more thing like window.alert. So yeah, I'm actually having that window.alert, which is already open. So yeah, in this window.alert we will be actually performing some button click event. So we actually placed a button click event, and for that button we actually wrote a function. So this is that function. So you will learn more about this function in the upcoming slides. So yeah, this is that. Hello, I'm an alert box. So I can actually change this and maybe like hello, you click me. So this is that. And now let us run this window.alert and opening in the Chrome. See, try it. So if I click this, hello, you click me. So this is how it works. So this is like window alert. Like whenever you are submitting, let's say if your password is wrong, so in that case, we'll be using this window dot alert. And whenever you want to throw some error, so we will be using this window dot alert to alert the user. Say you entered the username or maybe password wrong, so please check it. And now let's go to window print. Here we are actually using this button click again. So I will explain you when I actually give this demo. See, this is again a button. So when I click this print page will be open. Like similarly, like let's say if you want to take any printout, so which you will be normally doing for taking printout. So in this place, we are actually keeping a button and we are actually using this print option. So like print method actually to actually invoke this print window. So this is one thing. So where you can actually invoke this print. So again, next you will go to console log. So this is the console log. So console log is mostly used for debugging purpose. So like let's say when we're actually writing the code and if you want to see like whether that code is working fine or not. So let's say you have maybe three fields like first name, last name, and maybe his email ID. And in each place, if you want to actually see like whether it is coming after first name, it is coming to last name, or maybe after last name, it is coming to email ID. So then in that scenario, if we use this console.log, so then we can actually see how this console actually works. So like I will show you in practice. See, here for debugging purpose in JavaScript, so we'll be using F12 so as a console. So like here you can see the hello world. So this is how you can actually set up console logs. Let's say you are having, I will told you like, let's say we are having like first name, last name, and email ID. After first name, we can actually set up a console, and after that we can actually set up last name, and after that again one more console. After that email. After that any console. So if you keep these consoles, so it will be much more helpful when you are actually doing coding, so that you don't miss particular things that are related to the code. That is the thing regarding this console.log. Let's go to next slide. Yeah. Like in JavaScript, there are like a few keywords which you can't use as a variables. So like let's say these are like a few examples like we'll be seeing this in action in the upcoming slides. So like where, let, constant. So if for so these are all actually some keywords which are actually reserved in JavaScript. Like let's say if you want to declare any variable, so in that case you are specifying variable like var space x is equal to some maybe 6 or maybe 10 likewise. So in that case we can't use var. We can't declare var equal to 6. So we can't do that in JavaScript. So yeah, that is one thing. We will actually see this in action. So when I actually open the code. So these are the operators which we are actually having in the JavaScript. So arithmetic operators, assignment operators, comparison, logical, and yeah, type and then bitwise operators. So we'll see them in action now. Okay, firstly we'll see how comparison operator works, so we can understand more about this when I actually open. Yeah, I'm opening in a, in Chrome. So what this compare operator does is, see here I'm having less than, and in if we go to slides, so one second, yeah, in comparison operators we are having like whether we can actually, yeah, we are actually comparing whether it is equal to or not equal to or less than or greater than. So that's how comparison operators works. See, 2 is less than John. John is a string. And let's say if I give maybe 10, and I'm saving it, and let's open this again, or I think I'm having that. So let's refresh. So it is true because 2 is less than 10. So this is one thing. And let's say if I give 12 is less than 10, in that case it should return false because obviously 12 is great, so it should return false, so it returned the false. So this is one thing. And let's say if I want to assign, like if you want to compare, we'll be using this equal to, yeah, because yeah, in this 12 is equal to 10, so in that scenario like we can't assign it. So and let's say if I want to is not equal to, so like this will be mostly used like when we actually, when we are assigning like x equal to 10. So in that case, like if x is, uh, let me explain you in a better manner. So let's say we are having like x equal to 10, and if we want to compare with one more, like let's say y equal to 20. So in that case, like we can write it, we can write maybe like this, x equals y. So this is how we can actually compare, like it shows like how we are actually comparing, like if it is equal to. So if you want to compare like using this exclamatory, yeah, if it is not equal to y, so then it will return something like true or false. So this is about comparison operators. And now let's go for arithmetic operator. So in this arithmetic operators, like we can see like addition, subtraction, so multiplication, division, so all these things. So here is the assignment arithmetic operator. So now let me see like how we can actually run this. 150. Why it is 150? So because here we gave x equal to 100 plus 50. So it is obviously the result is 150. So let's say if I want to subtract, so let me give this minus symbol and let me refresh the page. So it should return 50 obviously. So and let's say if we want to divide it, so 2, because 100 divided by 50 is 2. And let's say if I want to multiply this, yeah, 5000. So because, yeah, 50, 100 into 50 is obviously 5000. So this is how arithmetic operator works. Uh, like now we'll go for this logical operators. So let me open this slide for you. So in logical operators, we'll be using AND or OR. So mostly this AND or and this exclamatory mark, not able to go. These are the things which you will be using. So let's see them in action so that you can actually see. See here we are actually defining like x is less than 10 and y is greater than 1. It should return maybe true or false. So I'm using this AND operator. So let's see like how it actually works. Yes, it returned true and false. So why? Okay. let me minimize this. So okay, here x is less than 10. What is the value of x? So here we are actually declaring x equal to 6 and y equal to 3. So obviously 6 is less than 10 and y, that is 3, is greater than 1. That is true because it satisfies the condition. And operator condition. So why this is false? So x is less than 10, 6 is less than 10. Okay, and y is greater than y is less than 1, 3. Obviously 3 is greater, so that is why it returned false. So this is how we can actually use this AND operator. And let's see our operator now. I'm saving it and let me refresh. Both return true. Why? Because if any one of them is true, so it will return true. If none of them is true, so it will return false. So in this scenario, like we have like x equal to 6. 6 is less than 10. It satisfies the condition. Obviously, even though if it is false, it will return true because one condition is satisfied for this OR operator, and this is how it works similarly for this one also. And let's see, let's go to other operators now. Assignment. Okay, let me open the slide. So yeah, assignment operator, like this is the operator which most of the students will be confused, or who are eager to learn like this JavaScript. So they might be a little bit confused because is equal to, okay, x equal to 10, okay, that is fine, but x plus equal to 10. So then in that scenario, like if any person is new to JavaScript, obviously they can't understand. So that is one thing. So let's see that in action. Yeah. See, I have declared two variables. Actually, I'm having three variables: a equal to 100 and b equal to 50, and I'm using x as an output operator, x as a output variable. So now let me run this. So it should return like 150. Yes, it returned 150. That is fine. Now we will try this, like let x plus equal to like a plus b. So let me save this and refresh. So let's go to the other slide. So yeah, comments. So comments are really important when we're actually writing the code, so that if you don't write any comments, so let's say if I developed some code and if I leave the organization, obviously some of the other person has to take control on it. So if we are not mentioning the comments properly, so in that scenario, like they can't understand the code, and debugging the code is a bit of hassle because the new person has to understand like each and every line of code. So in that scenario, like if we keep comments, then we can know like what is that code actually doing. So we can actually use like if the single comment will be putting like I will show you in Sublime. Like a single comment, like we can actually let me open this. Like we can actually use this to slashes, and we can actually write some, this is one line comment. So this is how we'll be writing one line comment. And let's say if you want to write like multiple lines, so then in that scenario, like we'll be using slash and then star. So slash and then star. So let me write some comment, maybe like this is lines. I can declare maybe star slash here. So this is how we will be writing the comments. Now let's go to other topic. Yes, statements. So statements in JavaScript contains like values, operators, as we discussed previously. Values in the sense, so like x equal to 6. 6 is a value. So that is one thing. And operators. So operator IDs, like just now we discussed regarding the operators. So maybe if you want, you can actually roll back and you can actually see that. And expressions, keywords, comments. So all these things. So this is one thing. Yeah, comments we actually just now we actually saw how we can actually write some comments. And let's go to JavaScript properties. So yeah, maybe we can record this JavaScript properties maybe in the next session. So for now I'm going to this variables. So in JavaScript we can declare any variables by using var, let, and constant. So if it is a variable, obviously var x equal to 6. We will see in action like how we can actually declare this var, let. And if you refer this constant, like actually const is a constant. Let's say you are calculating any maybe radius of a circle or something. So in that case, like you should be having one variable as a constant. So let's say maybe y equal to 3.4. So in that scenario, we can actually declare like const x equal to 3.4. So in that case, like x will be served as a constant. So no matter whatever the y and the other value changes, this will remain like constant. So this is how variables works. So we'll see var and let in action. So obviously constant also I will show you. Yeah, scope we can actually we will see this in action. So but before that, like let's say if it's a global scope means like let's say if I'm declaring any variables like outside the script, so then they can be accessed anywhere in that code. Whereas if you actually mention variables specifically in a function, so then it can be accessed only within that function. And let's say if you declare that within a block, like let's say in a JavaScript block, JavaScript, obviously, let's say, yeah, we'll see this in action. Then you can understand much better. Okay, this is how the global variables. So, like let's say, yeah, here you can see the variables. Like just now we talked about let, var. So, if you are declaring the variable inside the script, so it is a global. So, we can see this in action. Let me run this script. Okay, you can see. Now, let me show you and explain this in a much better manner. Here we are actually setting up this car name as Volvo outside the function. So like it's a global scope. Yeah, or I can say global variable. So where you can actually access that car name within that script like anywhere. Like yeah, within that script anywhere. So that is one thing. Like this is how we will be declaring global variables or maybe global scope. So this is that. Let's see like what is this. Okay, function scope. Okay, let's say if I define this in here, it can be accessed only within this function. So like let's see this in action. Maybe I can do a refresh. Yes, you can see I can display Volvo. Why? Because since you are having this within this function and we are referring this car name, so within this function and we are setting up this Volvo within this function. So then obviously this is function oriented, and let's say if you declare this outside any function, so we can't use that, and it will be returning you a value saying I can display, but it won't be showing you the car name. Yeah, this car name Volvo, it won't be shown. So it will only show I can display. So that is one thing. So and block, obviously block means let's say the whole script. So yeah, that is one thing. Yeah, now let's go to this conditional statements. So conditional statements like we use these condition statements most of the times like to perform any different actions according to the requirement. So let's say if I want to use if else, so we'll see this in action, like how it actually works. Okay, conditional statements. Conditional statements. Okay, in this, like we are actually seeing if, else if, and else, and switch statement we'll see in the next slide. So, like let's say if I like let's say here it will calculate this get hours is a method which is actually inbuilt property which is in JavaScript. Like the 6 is 6 hours. So like from morning 6. So system will calculate 24 hours. So let's say if it is less than 6, it will give you a result like let's say good morning, and if it is less than 12 it will return good afternoon, and obviously if it is not it will go to else path. Same manner, like let's say now the time is like 11:30, and if I run this code it should return me good afternoon. So like let's see this in action. Maybe good afternoon. Why it is returning good afternoon? Because we passed this less than 12, and let's say if I change this to 10, and less than 10, so it should return me good afternoon, because obviously I changed it for demo purpose. So now let's run this. Oh sorry, it's good evening. Oh yeah, why it is good evening? Because it is now it is the time, because it is taking the time, so and it will return evening, like evening, yeah. And let's say if I declare maybe if I declare here, let's say maybe 10, and here some 12, it should return me afternoon. So yeah, this is how it works. Now let's see switch statement. Switch. Okay, like switch statement we can actually use. I will show you in action in a much better manner. Okay. Okay, this is how it works. Like let's say you are having a variable that is text. So the text will be containing some string. If you declare like here, let text equal to say good morning, and if you actually call this document.get element of inner HTML equal to text, it will return whatever the value that is present in here. But if you want to use, like let's say followed by week, like here we are calling this days. So in this scenario, like it should be returning me like whether like today is Thursday. So it should be return me like looking forward to the weekend. Since weekend is almost approaching, so this is one thing. So like let's say if I want to like if I run this code maybe on Saturday or Sunday, it will give me the output today is Saturday if you open this on Saturday. So let me run this code. Looking forward to the weekend. And let's say if I run this code maybe on Saturday, so it will return me like today is Saturday. So yeah, this is how the loops will work. Sorry, conditional statements will work, and we'll see regarding these loops in the next session. Hi, welcome to HKR Trainings. So in the last session, we saw regarding these loops. So and now in this session, like we will be seeing the functions. So I'll be explaining more about functions. I'm doing this coding. So well, a function is considered as a block which can actually perform some task. So maybe a button click event, so or maybe a hover. So so on. So and even a drop down is also drop down. So many will come. So we'll see that in action. Well, in the last session we discussed regarding loops. That is for loop, while loop, do while, for in, all these. So in this session we will see regarding functions. So functions, we can define a function as a block of code like where it can perform maybe a button click event or even a drop down. So where you can actually place some values. Let's say maybe if you are building any application, let's say in that you have a drop down which consists of state, like let's say Andhra Pradesh, Andaman and Nicobar, so all this. So in these drop down, you must use a function in order to invoke certain values. So yeah, this is that. So we'll see this in action. So in this code, like in this function, like we can pass like a number of arguments so that it will give you some output. Maybe let's say if you have like 10 buttons, so you can pass 10 buttons as arguments and you can have 10 different outputs which can actually perform some button click event or maybe some drop down. So yeah, something like that. So this is about function. I will show you much about function when in the upcoming slides. So now let's go to the objects. So everything in JavaScript is object based. Let's say the thing which we are seeing, like let's say if you are actually watching this video, so that is an object because you will be watching either through mobile or maybe some kind of virtual based. So that will be considered as object. Uh, so like there are like three ways to how we can actually create the objects. So one is like object literal, and then the remaining two is they look similar but they are not. So how like we can create an instance using a new keyword, but at the same time we can actually create a constructor using a new keyword. So this is one thing. So constructor acts as an object, but you can actually pass without any parameters. So you can actually invoke this constructor without passing any parameters. So that is one thing. We'll see all these in the upcoming slides. So where I will actually I will be showing the function, and in that I will be showing you the objects like where I'm using this object. So now let's go to arrays. So arrays are nothing but let me take some Sublime maybe. Yeah, in this Sublime. Let's say I want to pass some uh, values. Let's say this is my variable, A is variable, and in this I'm passing values. So values, let's say maybe like HKR. So we have to pass, since this is a string, we have to pass it in quotes. So that is one thing. And maybe like KKR, maybe some CSK. So all these are considered as arrays. So in arrays, we'll be having index numbers. So how we will be calling is, suppose if I want to call this HKR, I will be defining it as F1. So this will be taking as A, since I specified this as 1, it will be taking KKR. How this index value works is like 0, 1, 2, 3, and so on. So like let's say here we are having like 3 elements. So in these 3 elements we'll be subtracting like n minus 1. So in this case we'll be getting HK, that is KKR, since we have specified this. So it will be taking, I mean we'll be getting output as KKR. So this is one thing regarding this arrays. So now let's see these classes. So classes are the templates for JavaScript. Let's say you are building any home. So for that we require some structural. Like let's say I need a blueprint of the whole building. So similarly, classes will also work. In classes, we will be having objects. We'll be having functions, we'll be having some parameters, we'll be having some button click events, or maybe some drop down events. So all these can be, we can define inside a class. So and to define a class, we'll be using this keyword called class. So encapsulate data. Yeah, we'll see all these in action. So after this slide, I'll be opening the code, so where you can actually see this. So generally, we use classes when we need to write code for multiple objects. Why? So it's very simple. You have a class, but in order to invoke the class, you should be having some objects. So obviously, alone a class, if you have a, let's say, if you have a blueprint, you can't do anything with a blueprint. You should have the structural elements, like maybe cement or something like that. So similarly, for a class, we require like multiple objects. Multiple objects in the sense like we need parameters, we need these objects. Sometimes we need, yeah, we require constructor, so button click events. So all these attributes. So now we will see these classes in action. So you can see this is a class. I will explain you how a class can be created. So we will be defining this class. This is a keyword. This is a inbuilt keyword. So we can't use this keyword as a parameter. I mean, as a variable. So class and this car is a variable. So we defined a class naming car. So this is one thing, and we are using constructor. So I just now spoke about constructor. So that is one thing, and here I'm passing these parameters name and year. Okay, now let's go in deep. So if I refer this dot name equal to name, it should return me some value. Those values will be defining using a variable, and that variable can be constant or it can be a variable. I mean, like here I'm defining this. Suppose if I am using this var, so in that case it is a variable. So variable in the sense like we can change the values. Here I mentioned this Ford and 2014. This will be constant. And suppose if I use this variable like var, so and if I want to change, and let's say for example, and let's say if I am overriding this, but keep like this. Yeah, and if I'm defining the values as maybe like Honda something, when you actually execute this, at the time you'll be getting Honda because variable keeps on changing. So that's why we call it as variable. So since we want to keep in this scenario, we want to keep this as constant. So uh, okay, now we will see like how it will be executed. So it should execute. I mean, it should throw me an output saying that for 2014. So let's see this. I'm using Chrome. Like you can actually use your comfortable web browser. So see here you can see for 2014. So this is how we can actually implement class. Now let's move to other part, type conversion. Okay. Yeah, type conversion will be mostly using, let's say, if I'm having a string and if I want to convert into any number, or maybe if I have some number and if I want to convert to a string, so then in that scenario, this type conversion will come into picture. So I will show you a demo, so maybe you can actually explore much about it. So yes, this will convert from number to string. How we'll be converting? There is a keyword. So everything in JavaScript. So like if you want to convert maybe from number to string or from string to number, so you will be requiring keywords, and the keyword is this to string. So this converts like a number to string. So let's say if I give 1, 2, 3. So it should be converted to a string. So we can't add that. And let's say if I'm like better if I can show you this in action. You can see 1, 2, 3. Suppose if you are let's say if I'm passing this 1, 2, 3 as a variable, and let's say if I am adding like I'll show you maybe in Sublime itself. So I will show you. Let's say I'm passing like this. So x equal to 1, 2, 3. It will be taken as a number. So 1, 2, 3 will be considered as a number. So we can do this like even like this. This is considered as a string. And if I want to convert this string to number, so then in that case I will be using a different keyword. So this is one thing. So I will explain you now. Like this type conversion we will be mostly using to convert string to number or maybe number to string, and if we have any date and if you want to convert it into let's say maybe numbers, because in dates we'll be having numbers and we'll be having let's say maybe 2-2-2020. So in that case hyphen is suppose if you want to remove that hyphen, so in that case we can actually do that using type conversion. So this is one example of type conversion. So where we can actually use it. Now we will go to errors. So yes, there are errors are actually quite common in any coding language. But if I want to talk specifically about JavaScript, mostly we'll be having these three errors: syntax error, runtime error, and logical error. Syntax error, okay, let's say I'm having this. Here, if there is a colon here, and let's say if I have missed to keep this thing, so in that case, it should throw me an error. Let's say I will save this now and let me do a refresh. You will see this. Why it is. Okay, yeah, from here it is taken. Okay, let's say if I okay, let me do this. Okay, yeah, why it is not working? So because I'm referring here, okay, that's fine. Okay, in this scenario, let's say let x equal to 1 to 3. Okay, that is perfectly fine. And let's say if I give let y equal to some 4, 5, 6, and if I give comma, it won't take. Why? Because it is a syntactical mistake, syntactical error. You have made an error within the code. So this is one thing regarding uh, the syntactical error. And runtime errors. Runtime errors are mostly caused, like, let's say when you are executing something. Let's say, yeah, you are executing. Let's say you are trying to log into Facebook. So and you, let's say you are filling the username and password. So in that case, you missed maybe username or leaving it as blank, or maybe you have entered an invalid one, or maybe you have entered a password as wrong. In that case, it will be throwing an error saying that password or maybe credentials are invalid or maybe wrong. So please correct it. That we will be calling it as runtime. Only when we run it, we will be seeing, like, let's say you will be submitting, I mean, you will be filling the username, you will be filling the password, but you won't be getting error at a time. Only when you click the submit button, so then only in that scenario you will be getting, okay, your password or credentials are invalid. So that is one thing. Logical errors are, like, let's say if I want to add, let's say 5 plus 3 equal to 8. So that should be, I mean, that is my requirement. And let's say if I am multiplying it, like 5 into 3, which gives me 15. So that is a logical error. So that is the one thing regarding these errors. So mostly we'll be dealing errors. So I mean, in any coding environment, coding platform, or maybe. So yeah. Now, errors can be handled using this try, catch, and throw, and then finally. So we'll see all these in action now. So let's say I will explain you in a brief, and then we'll jump into this coding part. We're executing something. Let's say you actually built, you actually developed a login screen. So in that, let's say you are trying to submit this password, or maybe try to submit the details. So in that scenario, like, let's say, okay, instead of giving Gmail or maybe some other, maybe at yahoo.com or hotmail.com or Reddit, so something. So let's say HKR at gmail.com. If I won't be mentioning this at gmail.com, and if I am filling my password and if I try to submit it, the application will crash. So in order to avoid these crashes, we're using error handling, I mean exception handling, I can say. So how we'll be handling, we'll see this in action. So we'll be keeping this try code. Let's say, okay, this email text field will be keeping within try block, and in catch block we'll be throwing the error. Catch and try throw, I mean, catch and throw block will, I mean, it will actually we will be having like almost similar way, but throw will actually gives us like to customize the error. Let's say if I want to customize my error, let's say after submitting this username and password, and since at gmail.com I haven't mentioned in the email text field, and when I'm trying to submit it, so in that case it will throw me an error. So instead of system generated error, if I want to take customize, if I want to make the error as customized, let's say, hey, you missed email, or maybe you missed entering your email ID correctly. So in order to do that, we'll be using this throw, I mean throw statement. And let's say finally, okay, this actually tries to execute the code. Like, it won't be bothering about try, catch, or maybe this finally. Sorry, try, catch, and then throw. It will directly go to finally. So whatever we mentioned in the finally block, it will be executing it. So this is about error handling. So now let's see this in action. Okay, you can see here. So here I'm using try, catch, and then finally. So when I am submitting it, like I will show you better if I explain you along with the output. Okay, here it is asking me to input a number between 5 and 10. Okay, let's say I have entered 5. Okay, okay, what is the output? You haven't got any output because okay, the number is okay, fine. Let's say if I open, if I keep 6 or maybe like 4, it should throw me an error. So because if we are inputting any number within 5 and 10, it is taking absolutely fine. Let's say, I mean, I will tell you a real scenario. Let's say you are applying for any job, and the age limit is, let's say, maybe 18 to 25. So in that age group only, I mean, the system should allow you in order to submit, enter the details. So in that scenario, we can actually keep this, use this scenario like, okay, enter your age, or maybe your age should be 18 to 25. In that case, suppose, let's say, if my age is, let's say, maybe 16, or maybe here, let's say, if I'm entering 3, it should throw me input is low. And let's say if I enter maybe out, like maybe 16 or something, it should be high. So this is how, like, similar way, like my age is low if I'm entering below that required age. And let's say if I'm entering above the required age, it should show me your age is high, you are not eligible, something. So this is how we'll be using exception. So this comes under exception handling. And regarding this hosting, okay, in JavaScript, like let's say we're having some variables and function names which can be used before declaring, yeah, which we can actually use it before declaring. So that process we call it as hosting. The JavaScript compare moves all the declarations of variables and functions at the top, so that there will not be error. What does this mean is, like let's say uh, when you actually open JavaScript compiler, so you can actually see all the variables on top. Why it mentions yeah, the variables on the functions in the top is so that the actual implementation will not be disturbed. Let's say if I'm implementing maybe some button click event, so in that case, let's say I'm having like 2 buttons. One is submit button and one more is reject button, or maybe cancel button. So in that case, like I'm having 2 buttons. So in 2 scenarios, we'll be obviously we'll be yeah, declaring the variables for the buttons, for the button click events. So whatever the variables and functions we declare, it will be resembling on top. So yeah, that is one thing. Now let's see this, how it actually works. I explain this. Okay. Let me explain you this code, how it works. Okay, I'm having an element. I am actually using this get element by ID, that is document.get element by ID, and I'm specifying one thing, that is ID. I'm specifying an ID, and after that I'm specifying like one variable, that is, this is the variable X. So whenever we run, it should execute me 5. Why it is executing only 5? So you can see here. See, it will. I mean, whenever this code is run, it will actually trigger this demo. I mean, this ID. So after this, it comes here and it will execute whatever the variables present here. So since I have specified like variable as x, like where x and x is already defined, so on top it will execute me 5. And let's say if I am keeping here as 50, so it should execute me 50. Or let's say if I'm specifying like 49, so it should execute me 49. Let's see this, so 49. So this is how hosting works. So whatever we want to keep the variables, we can actually keep on top, and we can actually call variables in the bottom, like let's say variable x, variable y, or maybe variable z, variable a, something like that. So we can call like that. So this is how hosting works. Now let's go to the next point. Okay. Okay, MVC is it's a framework actually. So in in most of the coding languages, we will be having this MVC framework, whether it's JavaScript or maybe Java or maybe Python. So we will be having some framework. So like MVC represents like model view controller. Okay. Whenever we are developing any kind of application, obviously we should keep this in mind, like model view controller. Okay. In model, we will be representing the data. Okay, let's say you are building any uh, house. You are building a house. In that, you will be requiring any model, like a blueprint or something. You will require some data. So in that case, you can actually see that, like how the building looks. That comes under view. And controller. Let's say, okay, I want to build any like 5 rooms or maybe 10 rooms. So that comes under controller. Okay, because that is under your control. Whether you can build a single room or maybe you can build 100 rooms. So that comes under controller. And similarly in JavaScript also, in model we will be having the data of the application, and in view we will be having a UI, user interface, like whatever you see in the web browser. So that is a view. In controller, it is used to perform any clicks, like let's say if you click on any button, or maybe let's say if you click a right click on the browser, you'll be getting some reload option or maybe inspect, yeah, something like that we'll be getting. So that comes under controller. So whatever the things that you perform in the browser, so it will be coming under controller. So this is about MVC. Now let's go to this IIFE. So what is this IIFE? So immediately invoke function expression. Most of the times we'll be using this pattern. This is a design pattern, so which we'll be using in JavaScript like most of the times. Okay, like this is a function which will be automatically invoked, like the completion. Let's say I have designed, I have implemented a UI, and when I'm actually running it on browser, this IIFE will be invoked automatically. So, like I will show you. So this 49 is there. It has invoked automatically. How? By using this IIFE methodology. So yeah. This is that about IIFE. Now let's go to this iterators. Iterators. I will explain you with code. So iterator, it's a let's say I have. Okay, I will explain you like this. So, like whenever you are actually implementing any object, so we require if we use this next keyword. So this next keyword is an iterator in a JavaScript. So that is how it will be considered as iterator. So suppose let's say you have created an object using next, next keyword. So in that case, that object will be considered as an iterator. I mean, the whole thing it will be considered as an iterator. Okay. If you are specifying it as next, we will be getting in return like 2 values. Either we will be getting false, true or false, like that is Boolean value, or maybe we will be getting the value which is specified in that method or maybe a function. So that is one thing regarding this iterator. Like this is that. So now if I want to go to this generators, so in generators, okay, let's say, okay, let me tell you in a much more efficient way. So generator, suppose whenever you are having a syntax and let's say if you want to iterate it again and again by writing a single function, then but that function is not continuous. So then in that scenario, we will be using this generator function. So whenever we are defining this, we need to make sure that we won't be using this again and again. Like let's say if I have a function, if I use this generator, I mean if I want to use this generator function, so if I keep on using it, performance will be degraded. That is the major drawback of these generators. So because it keeps on looping, so until unless the condition is satisfied. So that is one thing regarding these generators. Now let's go to these promises. Okay, let's say you have applied for a loan, or maybe you have taken some insurance policy, and let's say if you want to claim it, which will not be happening now, and let's say if you want to claim it maybe after maybe 1 year or 2 years, it will be happening in future. So maybe let's say you took an LIC policy, so let's say maybe for 1 or 2 years, or maybe an insurance even. So which will be which at the time of claiming, it will be obviously claim will happen after in the future only. Let's say you have taken any policy today, and if you are claiming it tomorrow, it is the future. So in that case, it is a promise. Like okay, it will be happening. Like okay, you will be taking the claim, but not now. But it can be in future. So this is about the promises. Let me show you this. How okay. Okay. I am having this x equal to 0 here. I am using this my promise as a keyword, and I'm passing my resolve, my reject as a parameters. And let's say if x equal to 0, so it should be throwing me the output as okay. And if x is not equal to 0, that is, let's say if I pass maybe 10, it will be returning me okay error. So that is how it works. So let's see this in action. So let me open this in Chrome. Error. Why it has thrown error? Because x we gave as 10. And let's say obviously 10 is not equal to 0. So that is why it thrown me that error. And let's say if I'm passing this 0 itself, it should throw me okay. So this is how, because it will happen for sure, but not now, in future. So this is about promises. Now let's go to async. Okay, in this async function, async is a keyword actually. So like where we can actually use both async and await keywords in order to, like this is mostly used in a promise based behavior. So let's say you're writing any code, and if you know that it will return the value in maybe after some time, maybe 1 hour or 2 hours, or maybe 1 day or 2 days, then in that case we can actually use this async and await keyword. Let me tell you in much more. I mean, I will take one more example. Let's say, okay, you are building an application. Let's say maybe insurance application, and let's say, yeah, maybe some accident has happened for any car or maybe bus or maybe bike. So in that case, you are building this application and you are pretty much sure that the customer who is the end, who is the end customer. So if he, if he wants to claim the insurance policy. So in that case, we are pretty much sure, like while billing itself, we are pretty much sure that the customer will be claiming the insurance at some point of time. Maybe not all the customers, maybe some customers. So in that case, we can actually go and use this async and await function keyword so that whenever the customer wants to claim, obviously it has to go through different process like that surveyor has to come and he has to survey and he has to do the estimation, and later on the insurance company has to you need to provide the documents to the insurance policy, and then the claim amount will be released. How it will be done? It will be done using the async and await keyword. So this is about a few things related to JavaScript. So yeah, thank you for attending this session. Hi, welcome to HKR Trainings. So this is our second session. So regarding JavaScript. So I will walk you through a few important modules. So where you will be actually using in a real time. So we'll be discussing about DOM. So what is DOM? So what exactly it is? So whenever we load any HTML page in the browser, so let's say you are opening any application or maybe some web page in the browser which contains some information. So maybe you have opened some newspaper or maybe you have opened maybe your Facebook. So the screen, in the display, you can see a web page, so where it will be having HTML elements. So like you'll be having a head section and the body, and then H reference, a paragraph, so my title. So these all elements, usually we will call it as tags. So in HTML language. So based upon these tags, so uh, the DOM will be, the browser will be loaded. So depending upon like which is referencing first, like let's say, in head and body, inside the body, you'll be giving like H reference, so and then paragraph, so iframes and all. So in such a way, it will load the web page, and then you can actually perform something. Maybe you can submit, or maybe you can read. So like this. So this is how a web page actually works in the backend. So where you will be having, you can consider it as a document. So where in a document you'll be having all the fields. So let's say you are buying any land or something. So in that land you'll be having all the referencing names. So like who has bought and who sold it. So like similarly here also. So like we'll be having HTML tags, and those tags are responsible for loading the web page. So this is how DOM works. Yeah, I have actually informed you. Just now we discussed about this. So all HTML element, like HTML DOM, it is a standard object model and the programming interface for HTML. Well, what does it mean? So simple. Like when you open a HTML page, any HTML page. So first, these tags will be called first. So HTML and iframe, H reference, paragraph. So all these will be called first. So and accordingly, the HTML element, HTML DOM actually defines how it will be loaded. DOM is nothing but like document object model. So like it's a model where it will be containing all these elements. So like HTML elements as objects, properties of all HTML elements. So the methods to access all HTML elements. So the event for all HTML elements. So whatever you see in the browser, like web page, So in the backend, so these are all which will be called in the backend. So suppose as I told you before, so let's say you have loaded a web page, and if you want to find like what is going on in behind, you can actually use inspector. Inspect there. So and then you can actually see like line by line, like which is being called first. So like let's say if there is an image which is loading a little bit late, or maybe if there is any video which is taking time, so you can actually see in that inspect actually like how much time it is taking to load that video. Or even we can see even analytics also. So let's say you want to actually see the analytics. Let's say you have designed a web page where you want to display analytics. So that analytics is a part of that web page. So in that web page, suppose let's say if you are, if you want to display that analytics, let's say maybe bar graph or pie chart or something. So then that part is coming from some other service, let's say REST service. So from third party website. So that will be taking some time because it has to fetch data from third party resource using that service. So you can actually see like how it is being called in the backend. So likewise, their DOM is responsible to actually load that data from the third page. So this is regarding DOM. Now we will discuss regarding forms. So like setting and getting values. We'll see this in action now. So I will walk through the theoretical theory first. So then we can actually jump into the coding section. So like as I said before, like these are tags actually. So whatever the web page is loading, it will be loaded in terms of tags. This form is also a tag. So in this, suppose if you want to access anything, let's say maybe some index value. So let's say you are having an array of 10 elements, and if you want to access like maybe fifth element, usually we'll be calling with index numbers like 0 to 9. And let's say if I want to call the fifth number, so I will be using document.forms of 5. So then that fifth element will be called. So likewise, and also we can use like if I want to access all the elements in that array, so then I can actually use form.elements to access form elements. So that is that. Now I will jump into this coding section. So yes, this is that. Actually, form tag will be defined like this. So where you'll be providing an ID, and then you'll be having some page. As of now, like I'm using like default PHP page in order to load it. So and then I will be defining like the fields. So first name, last name, and then I will be submitting. I have to use a button to submit actually in order to get some output. So that is that, and I placed this button actually because suppose let's say if I have fields, first name and last name are like text fields. So if I want to perform anything, I have to either have button or maybe some other thing in order to get some output. So that's why I'm placing this button, and I wrote a function named with my function, and in that my function, I'm actually referring this my form, which is a form. So where it will be called, where it will be displaying you first name and last name. So now let me show you that. So I'm opening in the Chrome. Okay, sorry. Yeah, likewise. HKR Trainings. So like let's say if I click this, so it has found 3 elements. So you can actually see what are those 3 elements: HKR Trainings, and then submit. Like this submit input. This is so that's how it actually works. I will actually guide you through the second example. So where we'll be looking into a deeper. Okay. Here also I'm placing the same thing. So HKR trainings and then the same thing. But here you can see like I can actually give the index value. So before I was talking like elements of I mean this part. Yeah, like let's say if I am referencing it as elements of 0, it should be calling this HKR because index value starts from 0. And let's say if I call it 1, it will be taking, I mean, it will be providing me this trainings as my output. So let me open this. So you can see, since I have referenced here as 0, so it should return me HKR. So let's see. Yeah, it is returning me HKR. And let's say if I want to return this trainings, so I'm placing it as 1 because now this trainings will be called. So let me do a refresh and then trainings. So that is how we will be using it. Now let me walk through you with more example, like few more. Yes, the same thing even here also. Like in the previous example, we are giving elements and we are referencing this index. So here also the same thing, but here we are using item. So in items, you can actually define like 0. I mean, it works similar to index value. So like where it will be picking up from 0 to and like whatever the array is, array size is. So if I can open this and if I click try it, like it is displaying me HKR. So yeah, that is how I mean similarly it works for even index value 1 and 2, like whatever we define in the form. And this is the fourth example. Here I have used a for loop. So because let's say if there is any requirement, let's say there are like 10 customers, and those 10 customers, uh, like let's say if they are trying to submit the details which are not existing in the database, let's say maybe their first name and last name hasn't matched, or maybe their email ID hasn't matched. So then in that case, we have to loop the elements in order to, because we need to throw some error like exception handling instead of crashing the browse that web page. So we can actually use this exception handling, and we can actually use try and I mean catch block. So likewise, and we can actually provide suitable uh, exceptional statement which says like, okay, you have entered your email ID as, let's say, maybe wrong, so or maybe it is invalid, so something like that. So so similarly here also, like I'm having I mean here I want to reference what is the length of that particular thing. So now let me open. See, when I click this, right, so it is referencing me 3 because HKR trainings and submit. So these are the things which I have defined in the form. So first name, last name, and input. So these are all the elements which it is returning, and here I have referenced it as length. So like the keyword. So yeah, that's why we are getting it as 3 because it has looped three times. So this is about forms. Now let's jump into a different topic. Yeah. Yeah, this is how that form actually works. submit. Yeah, validating. Yeah, that is how we actually validate any forms. Let's say if you are designing any user interface where you have a requirement, let's say email ID, password should be validated. So in that case, you can actually use forms and you can actually do this authentication. So similar to the one which we did, like HKR trainings. So let's say the third field may be the password. So in that case, like once you click the try it, so then it has to validate something. So there for us, it is returning the elements which are present, like whatever we enter in that text field. So like HKR, I mean HKR training. So that is returning something, like it is providing me HKR trainings as my output. Let's say if I want to authenticate, so then let's say if you are opening any, uh, let's say there is a requirement. Let's say you have to design a login page where you will be asked to use email ID and then password. So there we can actually use this form and we can actually do that authentication. And yeah, the similarly what we did for submit button, like right button. So similarly we can actually implement for this validating forms also. Like under validation, like during interviews. So mostly students or person the interview, yeah, the interviewer will be asking like what is server side and client side validation. So what is the difference between it? Server side, yeah, in a one shot, we can say like client side validations are the one which developer will be taking, and whereas server side it will be taking from backend, like a database side. Let's say you are logging into maybe Facebook or Instagram something. So let's say you are trying to use your email ID to log in and password, and you have entered your password as something like which is not correct. So in that case, it becomes client side validation because the password you are entering is wrong from your side. Like whenever we click that submit, like let's say that password can be like okay, you must have like 8 characters until unless we will not accept. So let's say that is the requirement. So let's say if you have entered less than 8, that is maybe 5. So in that case, when you are actually submitting that button, so you will be getting some pop-up like window dot alert saying that okay, please enter suitable password of 8 characters. So something like that. That is client-side validation. Whereas server-side validation, okay, you have performed like you gave the your email ID as well as password with specified number of characters. So and then when you click that submit button, it has to go to the database and fetch your information. Like let's say if you are giving like HKR trainings at HKRTrainings.com, something like that. So in that case, like it has to go to Facebook database and it has to fetch, it has to search with that email ID. So and then it has to like if it is correct, then it will be. I mean, yeah, the web page will be open. Else, it will be throwing you an error saying that okay, username and password are incorrect, something like that. So that is how we validate forms. Babel. Well, Babel, it is a toolchain which is primarily used to convert ECMAScript into a compatible JavaScript code. Like it works in both current browsers as well as old browsers. But my personal experience is like it won't work much in Internet Explorer. So whereas it works perfectly in Firefox or Chrome or maybe even Safari. So yeah, Safari, but it won't work perfectly in Internet Explorer. So that is one thing. So this Babel, it's a tool chain which is actually used to convert ECMAScript code into a compatible JavaScript version. Let's say if you are if you have any script of ECMA, so then if you want to convert into like a suitable or compatible JavaScript code. So then Babel is the one which we'll be using. It can be read in across all browsers except Internet Explorer. So this is that. Now we will go to template strings. So yeah, in this template strings, like we are having like three types. So firstly we'll see like what are those, what is a template literal or template string. So let's say usually we will be defining a string within double quotes. So if you are using a single quote, so then it becomes template string. So that is how simple it is. So that the theoretical part. And coming to the types, quotes inside a string with template literals. So you can use both single and double quotes inside a string. Okay, what does it mean? So you can use a double quotes within a string. So let's say maybe multi-line strings means like you have a string with the multiple lines. So like let's say welcome to, and then in the below line HKR, and in the below line trainings. That is how multi-line strings will be defined. We'll see this in when we are coding. Interpolation. So in interpolation, like template strings, like or template literals, provide an easy way to interpolate variables and expressions into strings. Okay, we'll see this in action so that actually understand it. Okay, well, you can see here. So, like, I wrote a JavaScript code with text as a variable, and in that I have defined welcome to HKR Trainings with single quote. So that is like quotes inside a string. So this is how we will be. You can actually write something. Welcome to HKR Trainings. JavaScript. So I wrote that within double quotes. So now let's see. This is how we will be getting as output. So you can actually define an in a template string, you can actually define any template string with a single quote, and inside a single quote, you can have like a double quotes. Maybe if you are indicating something which is important, or maybe if you want to highlight something. So this is how that like quotes inside a string will be happening. So now let's look into multi-line. So multi-line, I mean, the statement, the word itself, it says like you are learning template literals or strings, same concept. So if I can open this, see, whatever you define like one by one, so it will be coming under a single line. So you are learning template literals. So yeah, this is how this multi-line strings will be looking. Now this is interpolation. Oh well, what is interpolation? So here I have defined in a JavaScript code. So I took like four variables. So T1, first name, last name, and then text. So in first variable, I'm referring TO, I mean two, and in the first name HKR and last name like trainings, and in the fourth variable. So here I'm actually defining this template string like this. So within single quote, welcome, and whenever within curly braces, so I'm referring the variable 1, and then similarly followed by second variable and third variable. So and then using document or get element by id, I'm actually referring the text. So it should return me welcome to HKR trainings. So let's see whether it returns me the same thing. Welcome to HKR trainings. So this is how template strings works actually. So you can actually define within a single quote, and within a single quote you can actually define maybe double quotes or whatever you want. Maybe if you want to highlight something. So that is how template strings actually works. So now let's go into this. Now we will come to destructuring. So array destructuring and object destructuring. So well, what does destructuring actually mean? So it's a technique that allows you to actually extract some value from something. So let's say if I talk about array destructuring, so it's a technique that actually extract some array values into new variables. Similarly, for object restructuring also. So it's a technique like where you can actually extract some object value into new variables. So I will walk you through the examples. So yeah, so this is array destructuring. So I wrote a function inside a Java, inside this JavaScript tag. So where it has to calculate addition, subtraction, multiplication, division. So and then I wrote a return function where I'm calling all the variables. So like add, subtract, divide, so and so on. So and then here I'm actually passing the values like 7 and 5. So well, 7 will be the value of A and 5 will be the value of B. So I am using document.write. So that is the thing. So now let me open it and showcase. This is how the output will be. So output is like 7 plus 5, it is 12, and 7 minus 5, obviously 2, and product 7 5 is a 35, and quotient like it's a division. So, well, it will be written in like 1.4, so quotient. So that is that, and let me walk you through the object destructuring now. So here I actually took few variables, that is vehicle 1, brand, model, type, year, color, and then I'm actually calling that inside this function like vehicle, inside this. So I'm using this my vehicle as a keyword. So in the message where I will be displaying the output, so there I will be representing it as my own.wrv is so and so. I will see that in action. So let me open that. Yeah, my car is a gray Honda WRV. So that is how we will be referring this object destructuring. There is one more example. So let me. Yeah, this is interesting actually. So you can actually see like object destructuring. You can actually call a, like let's say you are having a curly braces. Inside that curly braces, you can call one more object. So likewise, you can have like a number of objects. So inside that curly braces. So now I want to actually call this. So let's say I want to call this like city, state, country, etc. So similarly, I'm actually using this. So it should return me my WRV is registered in let's say I'm calling there Karnataka. So it has to return me my WRV is registered in Karnataka. So yes, this is how we'll be defining destructuring. So this is about destructuring algorithms. Sorry, destructuring method. So now we will actually you see regarding this thread and REST operators. REST operator this enables us to call a function with any number of arguments and access those excess arguments as an array. So in the destructuring algorithm, which I shown you inside a curly braces, I'm actually referring one more curly braces. So that is how we will be using this thread and REST operators. So we will be, let's say, if you want to access any particular element inside any curly braces, so there we can actually define using this destructuring methodology. So that is that, and the function improvements. Arrow features have been introduced in ES6 version of JavaScript. It's used to shorten the code. Well, it's all about the improvements that have happened in JavaScript. So here we do not use the keyword function and we use arrow symbol. So yeah, I mean we won't be using this much because yeah, it depends upon the requirement even. So yeah, let's jump into other topic. So this is object literal improvements. Object literals allow with creation of objects with properties within curly braces. So as I told you, when we are actually creating, let's say you have a requirement. Like let's say you want to create a function, and inside a function you will be defining some variables, and within those variables you want to define few more variables within curly braces. So that is how I mean that's why this object literal comes into picture. So for creating an object, you only have to write down a list of key pair like values, value pairs delimited by commas. So I can actually show you this. Yes, this is how we'll be defining that. So I took a variable naming car, and in that I am referencing like type, model, and color. Yeah, and in the document dot get element by ID, so I'm actually calling it as like the car type is, and I'm actually referring type. What is that car type? So that is that, and let me open that. The car type is Honda because type I mentioned is Honda. So it's why it is returning me the car type is Honda. So that is about that. So we have seen practically. So yeah, now let's discuss about these modules. JavaScript modules allows you to break up your code into separate files. So this makes it easier to maintain the code base. So okay, I will explain you with an example. Let's say you are designing a web page where you are required to place images and you are using some third-party libraries. So and styling, that is CSS, you can actually yeah, styling, and then HTML, JavaScript. So all these. So if you are keeping within a single folder, so then maintaining it will be very difficult actually. So and let's say if any other person, if he wants to make any change, so well he will be confused, or he will get frustrated because the code is obviously the maintainability of the code will be reduced. if we are placing everything in a single folder. That's why, so like if we can actually place that within separate folders, like let's say styling will be under CSS folder and HTML will be under HTML folder, and like JavaScript will be under JavaScript folder, libraries like let's say third-party libraries will be under libraries folder, and let's say if you are using any images folder, all these folders will be coming under your project. Like let's say HKR Trainings is a project name, and under that HKR Trainings folder, you will be having all these folders. So like whenever you run that, whenever you run that, so these all will be called. I mean, so that maintainability of the code will be much more efficient. So that is about that. And now coming to this maps and set. So map is a collection of key data items, just like an object, but the main difference is that map allows keys of any type. We'll see this in action. So set is a special type of collection, like set of values, like without keys, where each value may occur only once. So well, what is the difference? So map can have like any type of keys, whereas set will be having like only it can actually have only occurrence of only one time. So that is that. I will actually walk you through the example. Here I'm actually using this map dot set. Yeah, obviously set is a keyword. So and then I'm actually referring it as one main set, a string, because I'm placing it within a code. So obviously it's a string. And then one, obviously it's an integer, so num1, and then two, it's a boolean value. So then here I'm actually referring uh, get one, so string size and all. So now if I can run this code, I mean it will return me yeah, better if I can open you, see num1, and then it has to tell me a string one and then 3. So this is how map keep yeah, keyword will actually work. Yeah, same thing. Here I'm actually using obj as a variable, and inside that variable I'm actually passing name and age. So now when I call this obj, so it will return me name, because here I'm actually referencing name. Suppose if I reference age, it will return me 25. So for now, let's refer name. Yeah, it returned me like Ramesh with window dot alert. Yeah, alert or window dot alert, both returns the same thing. So that is that, and then now let's go to this set. Yeah, this comes mostly under map itself. So where it will be returning you, like I can better open and I can show you like 2, and then that's how it actually works, because here we are actually referencing like orange. Orange is 2. Like let's say if I place it 5, and if I can run, it will return me 5. So that is how it works. And now let's go to other part. Okay, here I'm actually using set. Well, I have like three variables. So like John, Peter, and then like Mary. Yeah, Mary. So now I'm actually calling it using for loop. So like user offset, and I'm actually using window.alert. I mean, window.alert or alert, both return the same thing. So like now let me open this. So oh, it is not returning me. Okay. Okay. I did not return. Cool. Because I have referenced it, with wrong name, so that's why it was not returning. Okay, fine. This is how it actually works. It has returned me three. That is John, Peter, Mary. So how? Because here I'm actually setting for size. That is three because John, Peter, and Mary. So that is that, and in a for loop, I actually wrote a window. I mean alert like alert where I want to display something to the user. Like it can be like John, Peter, Mary, something like that. So this is how the set method actually works. I will walk you through like one more example where I'm using for each. Similarly, yeah, similar to the previous example. So here also I'm actually uh, running the same thing using set, but here I'm using for each. So let me open that. Oranges, apples, bananas. So why it is returning me like those many times? So because here I actually set up this for each instead of for loop. So that is why it is returning me like that. So that is how it actually works. That is how we use this map and set function. So let me recall you the same thing. So map is a keyword which can allow like any like it can allow like of any type, whereas set is a keyword like which can occur only one time. So like the occurrence of set will be only one time, whereas map will be like many times. So that is regarding maps and sets. So now let's go to symbols. Symbols are new primitive types presented in ES6, that is version of JavaScript. Symbols are entirely unique identifiers. So like their primitive counterparts. So like let's say maybe string, boolean. So they may be created using factory function symbol that returns a symbol. So like I will walk you through the example. So yeah, this is regarding like symbol replace. So where it will be here you can see like I actually wrote this symbol dot replace where it will replace some string. Well, here I'm giving like REP of Java. So now let's see like what it returns. So I'm using document dot write ln. So for that, so let me run that. Yeah, before Java, after Java point. So it has removed this T point from this, and it has represented like R dot value means Java. So like before it is Java and after it is obviously Java T point. So likewise we can actually use this symbol dot replace to replace any string values. And now this is uh, like I have like two variables. So and then I'm using this document.write, and inside the document.write I'm actually writing a condition. I mean equating like I equal to 0. Well, it is true because here the values like obviously it is equally like here I actually gave I and here also I gave I. So that is how this symbol actually works. And now let's go to this split in a symbol. So symbol dot split in a string, it will actually split a string into two parts. So where here I'm actually using, since I'm using this split keyword, so and then I'm referencing this string. So yeah, and then like let me open that. So we split point from the string Java point. So point. So we have split this point from that whole uh, thing. Like see, this is the point which we have split. So and we are actually referencing it in a new line. So that is regarding this split keyword under symbol. So now the search keyword under symbol. So it actually search uh, a specific string which is present in a let's say maybe a paragraph or something like that. So here I'm actually referencing Java point, and in that I want to search int. So let's see this in action. See 7. So this is how that symbol dot search will actually work. So that is that. Yeah, this is regarding that symbols. So where these are the new primitive types which are presented in ES6. So symbols are entirely pure unique identifiers like their primitive counterparts like Boolean string or number, something like that. So they may be used using the factory function like that is symbol, which returns a symbol. Obviously, we saw that in action. So while coding. So that is about symbols. Now let's go to JSON. So, well, what is JSON? So, JSON stands for JavaScript Object Notation. So, JSON is a format for storing and transporting data. So, JSON is often used when data is sent from a server to a web page. Okay, let me walk you through. Let me explain you this in a much better manner using a scenario. Let's say you are implementing a weather application and you are actually you need to showcase the data like hourly data or maybe weekly data in your application. So for that you have to use a REST service from some third party. So that third party is providing you an API, and that API you want to consume in your application. So for that you will be establishing a REST service, and whatever the data that is received from the third party to your application will be in the JSON form. So like then only you will be calling those, like let's say weather data, in a sense like we'll be having like mm, temperature, rainfall, so and many more. And you will be noting, you will be using those fields like temperature, rainfall, and clouds. Like, is there any cloud or something like that? So that part you will be actually grabbing. Fetching from that JSON. So that is how this JSON actually works. So JSON data types in JSON. So values must be in one of the following data types like string, number, object, array, boolean, and null. So obviously we'll see this in action. So okay, here I'm actually I created a object, and in that object I'm actually calling this like name John, age 30, and city, something like that. And when I run this, so let's see like what it will be returning. It has returned me a JSON, because usually JSON will be JSON and XML are the formats which we will be using when we are working with some REST service or maybe SOAP service, something like that. So that is the uh, two paths where we can actually consume the service. So two ways where we can actually consume the service. So yeah, that is that. So it has returned me this JSON format. So now let's see the second example. So here I'm actually passing a JSON itself. So where name Ramesh, age 25, Karnataka, something like that. So it has two parts, is something. So Ramesh and then 25. I'm passing a JSON from JavaScript, and I'm actually getting the value. So Ramesh and then 25. So why that only? So because here I'm actually calling like obj.name and obj.age. So that is that. That is related to JSON. So JSON values, like it should contain only a string or a number or maybe an object like array, boolean value or null. So these are the things that comes under JSON data types. So now using this parse and stringify JSON, so we'll see this in action. So uh, like parse is a key. Parse is a keyword like for parsing data that was received as JSON. It deserializes a JSON string into a JavaScript object. So yeah, that is that, and stringify. So what is this? Like uh, it is used to create a JSON string out of an object. It's that simple. So now let's see this in action. Parse and then stringify. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Objects and arrays in JSON. Okay. JSON defines only two data structures: objects and arrays. So an object is, I will walk you through that. I mean, just now for the previous thing. Okay, for the previous thing. So this we were using actually in this. So let me open that. Like here, you can see like I'm using this JSON.parse. So that is the keyword. So where it was returning me Ramesh and then some 25. So that value, and this is that stringify. So where it is returning me a JSON string, like JSON data. So it is returning me that JSON data. So this is regarding that JSON. So now let's move to other topic: objects and arrays in JSON. So yeah, this is what we discussed. Like an object is a set of name and value pairs, and array is a list of values. So what is that? So let's say you have like yeah name and then value. So better if I can open the same example. Yeah, this is a JSON. So this is that name, and this is the value which we are giving. We are passing as John. So this is name, and then name is age. So and then value is 30. So that is regarding that. Now remote communication in JavaScript. So what is it actually? So it actually means like AJAX, so some XML HTTP request working in fetch. So I will actually for this we need a service in order to actually show you. So for that I'm using as a temporary purpose. So this one. So where I actually placed some one button, and in that button I'm actually calling this load doc, and load doc is a function. So inside that function, I mean in that function I'm actually giving some text file. So where it will be where I'm calling this get keyword. So get, post, and these are the methods like where we if you use get we'll be getting information from that file, whereas post means we'll be sending the request. Yeah, get, put. So these are few methods. So yeah, this is the text. So whenever I click this, something should happen. So Ajax is not a programming language. It's a technique. Obviously, it's a technique. So it's not a language actually. So this is how that AJAX call will be happening along with this XML HTTP request. So that is that. AJAX is the abbreviation. AJAX stands for like asynchronous JavaScript and XML. So it consists of a set of web development techniques instead of real-time programming language. So obviously AJAX is a technique. So AJAX is extensively used in client-side programming. So let's say you are actually you have a requirement, like let's say you are designing some login page, and in that login page username and password are the thing, and let's say if the user is not entering that login username, and if he is entering only the password, and whenever he submits, so clicks on the submit button, so an error will be thrown saying that please enter your username. So that action will be happening through AJAX. So that is that, and this we saw in action. So where XML HTTP request object may be used for exchanging data with a web page server in the background. Well, like in the previous example, which I explained, like when you are actually designing this login page, where you are required to enter like username and password. Let's say if you haven't entered username, and if you have entered the password, and let's say if you submit, so it will throw you the error saying that okay, you have entered an invalid username, or you have please enter username. So that thing will be happening using this AJAX and XML HTTP request. So this means that you can update portions of a web page without reloading the entire page, because this is used whenever, like let's say if there is a web page, and in that web page, let's say in the top right corner, or maybe bottom right corner, or maybe in the center, you are placing this UI like with username and password. So every time when the user clicks that submit, whole page has to be fetched from the database. Like instead of that, if we have this Ajax, we can actually reload that only that UI part itself, that login UI itself. So without reloading the whole page. So that is that. Working in fetch. So JavaScript fetch method is used to request information from the server and load it onto web pages. Like this fetch, we'll be using like in REST service. So like let's say you are developing any application. So in that application, like there is a requirement. Say like you want to if you want to implement this weather data, like a 7 day weather forecast you want to implement in your application. So when you are using this REST service, and using the API, you will be you'll be consuming the API from any third party. And using this fetch method, so we can actually fetch the information, fetch that 7 day weather forecast and display it on our web page. So that is how fetch keyword will be used. The request may be of any API that returns data in JSON or XML. So obviously, whenever we are using any API, so we need to make sure that obviously the output data will be like only of JSON or XML only. Like JSON is mostly preferred for REST service and XML is mostly preferred for SOAP. So that is about that. Yeah, like fetch URL and then option. So browser DOM. So we have already discussed DOM initially itself. So like window object, the history object, navigator, timers, cookies. Yeah, now we will go through one by one. So window object, like let's say you are designing any web page, let's say single web page. So wherein you have to uh, use the only that single page and you need to refresh only specific columns. So for that purpose, we can actually use this iframe and then we can actually load the data or maybe reload. Like let's say you are building any login screen and only that if you want to refresh only that login part without refreshing the whole web page. So then in that case, we can actually go for this and then history object. Yeah, the history object contains like URLs visited by the user in the browser window. Like it will return you like how many times did the user visited specific web page. So history of the object is a property. The history object is a property of the window object. So we will all see this in action. So navigator object, but yeah, yeah, these are all the things. Okay, firstly, we will complete the theoretical part and come to this coding section. So, navigator object contains information about the browser. So, like location object, or like what if that window object is about, something like that. And timers. So, timers, like let's say you have a requirement, like let's say you want to send maybe like uh, okay, after you if you want to send maybe some greeting message or something, after clicking that like submit button, you want to return some output. Let's say after, I mean, there should be a delay between that submit button and the message. So at that time, we can actually use this timers. So these time intervals are called timing events. Well, now let's look at the timers. So like let's say if you want to send any greeting message, like after the button click has happened, like let's say if you want to tell like, hey, welcome to HKR training. So in that case, like if there is, if I mean, like delay should be there. Like after clicking the button and then showing the message, some delay should be there. Like maybe 3 seconds or 5 seconds or 10 seconds or 1 minute, 30 minutes or something like that. So for that purpose, we will be using these timers. Cookies. So, like cookies will be storing our information in the web pages. So when a browser requests a web page from any server, cookies belonging to the page are added to the request. So whenever you open any web page, maybe some Facebook or anything, so like cookies that are belonging to the page will be saved in our browser. So like this way, like let's say if you are reopening the same browser maybe after 10 days, so then in that case you can actually set a timer like when that cookie should be deleted, like 10 days or 30 days or 1 year, something like that. We can actually set that in the cookies, like so that it will be deleted automatically, something like that. Yeah, that is that. And coming to this local storage, with the local storage object, you can save key, I mean key pairs or value pairs to the browser. So all these we will see in action. So actually, Local storage object saves the data without any expiration date. Yeah, because since we are referencing our local objects, so no expiry date will be there, like which we saw for cookies. Like the data will not be deleted, and it will be uh, uh, because since you are actually referencing your local objects itself, so the data will be stored in our local system itself. It will not be deleted either you close the browser or something like that. So, and coming to this jQuery, so yes, this jQuery is a small, it's a library with, but it has many features. So like it makes JavaScript programming much simpler. So like let's say, uh, yeah, there is a requirement of uh, designing a sign up page. So yeah, or maybe login page itself. So to be easy. So you are required to enter your email ID and password. So whenever we are clicking that submit button, so something has to be thrown, like maybe a web page has to be opened, or if the email ID and password are not matching, or maybe it is wrong. So in that case, it has to throw an error saying that username and password is wrong. So for that also we can use this jQuery because it's a quick and easy thing to actually make it. Yeah, make it like it makes things like HTML document traversal and manipulation animation. So AJAX much simpler with an easy to use API that works across across all browsers. So that is what it means. So if you use jQuery, so animation, and if you're using, let's say, maybe an animation or AJAX, so it works in all browsers. So that is what that means. So now let's see this in action. So I'm actually using uh, firstly focus. We'll focus on cookies because this is much more important when we are actually designing any web page or something like that. So to store the information. So yeah, here I have a function. So to set the cookie, and I have one more function to get the cookie, and I have one more function to check the cookie whether it is present or not. So this is how I'm actually setting. So here I'm actually setting the the expiration date for this. So like after this period, this cookie will be expired. So this is that, and within this expiry date, if you actually open it, so you can actually, I mean, it will be calling this function like check cookie. So whenever you actually click the submit button or something, yeah, something related to that, if the username is present already, so then it will actually welcomes you saying that welcome to HKR Trainings. If not, if you are a new user, so then in that case, it will be using this get cookie function. So that is that. We will run this. Yes. Here it is asking me to enter name. So, and it will be stored in our cookies part. So that is how these cookies will work. Now let's go to this focus. Let's say if you are in a web page, so where you want to focus on a specific part. Let's say you want to highlight that part. Let's say uh, you have you have a requirement, like let's say to design any login page And if you want to highlight only on that page, no, let's take this one more step further. You have a sign up page, and let's say you have entered username and password and email, so which are already there. So then you will be getting a pop-up. I mean, you'll be getting a window saying that, okay, please enter login name and password, because your email, your user details are already present. So yeah, for that, I'm actually creating a function, and I'm creating a variable. So where it will open a window with this much size, height and width. So, and it will, since I'm using this focus, so it will actually focus that window only. Now let's see this in action. So when I click this, see, a new window will be opened of 200 by something like which mentioned in that. So that is about that. And now this is regarding this jQuery. So jQuery, yeah, jQuery, like let's say you want to implement something like, let's say on click of a button, something should happen, or on click of a text, something should happen, or on click of a mouse over, on click of, sorry, on mouse over, something should happen. So then we can use jQuery instead of using JavaScript. So like this is that jQuery thing. So like this is how we represent a jQuery. So now let's see this in action. So like if you click me, I will disappear. So yes, it disappeared. Click me too. So that's how it actually works. This is about that jQuery, and similarly, this is to animate like the background. Let's say you are having something, so and if you want to animate something, like if you are having an image, and if you want to rotate that image on click of some button or that text, so then you can actually implement this jQuery. So for that, let's see this in action. So when I click this, something should happen. It has moved. So that is about this animation. So where you can actually use a jQuery and you can actually animate it, any image, something like that. So that is about it. And this is fade also. So fade in and fade out, something like that. So here the same thing. So here I'm using this fade in keyword. So to actually fade the image, so like background. So like if I can see this, if you can see this in action, see, click to fade in boxes is something, and then colors are changed. So this is how it actually this fade keyword works in jQuery. So now let's say you have a requirement where you are required to build a UI. In that UI, you are having like home, contact us, careers, and products. So that has to be happen. That needs to happen only on click of hamburger icon or maybe some button. So when you click that, so it has to like either hide or open. So that is a requirement. So for that case, so we can actually use this uh, hash hide and then show. So this is how we'll see this in action, like how this hide and show works. So well, suppose if I click this hide, this text has to be hidden. Yes, and if I click this hide again, it won't work because already that is hidden. And let's say if I click this show, it will show the text. So this is how this hide and show thing will work. Now coming to the local storage, Like let's say you have a requirement where you need to fetch details from your local system itself, like last name or first name or maybe mobile number, something like that. So for that, I'm actually using this local storage dot set item, and in the set item, I'm actually giving last name as from Smith, and in the document dot get element by ID, I'm calling this last name. So now let's see this in action. See, saved name is Smith because this name is saved in our local system. So this is, I mean, local storage. So that is how this local storage property works. And in the navigator, so let's say you want to showcase the language so that you are using in your system. So it can be English, US, UK, something like that. So for that, I have created a variable naming language, and I'm using window.navigator. Navigator is a keyword for navigator. And then I'm using this language. So whenever I run this, so it has to return me browser languages. So whatever the language that I'm using. So now let's run this. So English US, because I'm actually running English US. So that is my uh, like browser language. So it is English US. So that is about Navigator. So now session storage. Session storage, it actually stores the last name or maybe first name, mobile number. So whenever you open any window object, so like here I have created session storage. I'm showcasing this session storage using, I wrote a script with the session storage dot set item, and inside that, I'm actually passing last name, or you can pass even first name or mobile number, something like that. And in this, I have created one variable, so with person name. So in that person name, I'm actually calling this last name. So I'm using document.get element by ID. So I'm actually running that. So session storage. So person name is Smith because we provided it. So it will be stored in. It will be stored in the session store. Using this session storage property. So that is about that. Now this timer. So let's say like you have a requirement where you need to delay on click of a button. Let's say if you want to display any greetings, let's say maybe after 1 hour or maybe 3 seconds or maybe 30 seconds, something like that. So here I can actually use these timers. So like using this set timeout, so I can actually define it, and I can actually delay it. So how? So I created a function with hello. A function name is my function, and using this alert, you can use even window.alert also. So using this alert, in alert, I'm passing this hello because it's a pop-up actually. And here I'm actually passing that function and the time that is to be delayed. So here I'm actually delaying for 3 seconds. That is 3000 milliseconds. So that is that. Let's say on click of this. So here I should wait for 3 seconds after clicking this. I have waited. So let's see. Yeah, hello. After 3 seconds, it is displaying me hello, something like that. So that is about timers. So it is mostly used to delay on click of a button. Let's say if you want to display any image or maybe some video or maybe some GIF. So for that part, we can actually use these timers. And window history. So this window history, like it actually displays you the length of the property, like how many uh, if that is a new window, obviously it will return only one. And let's say if you have a requirement, let's say like you want to return the value of how much time, like how many history objects that are being occurring. Like let's say if there are like 10 users are actually opening that web page. So then that count you have to showcase. So maybe in your web page or maybe in your database. So something like that. So then in that case, we can actually use this history.length. So using this, we can actually get like length, like how many times did the user actually opened it. So let's say if one user have opened like let's say 10 times, so then it will be returning 10. So since this will be like a new one, so it will be returning as only one, only one, because this is a new page and that too it's a local, local stored one. So that is that. And alert. So alert is a like we use this alert or window alert in many of our coding sessions. So, but to be specific and to explain more about this, so I have created a button like on click, like that function. I created a function using that is my function, and I placed this alert, and in that alert I am placing hello, I am an alert box. So instead of this, we can actually mention like welcome to HKR trainings. So this is that. So now if I can open this, click this. So hello, welcome to HKR training. This is how that alert actually works. So and let's try with the window.alert. So because obviously it will return the same thing. So right, hello, welcome to HKR trainings. So you can use alert or window alert. So in order to display that warning. So now this is blur uh, property. So where this blur property, like it works similar to focus. So where you will be defining a specific area. Now let's say there is a requirement you need to focus on let's say specific login screen, only on login screen itself. So then uh, or maybe we can extend this even more. Let's say there is a sign up page, and in that sign up page you are giving username, I mean like email ID, mobile number, password, and the first name, last name. So those details are exist already, those details are there in the database already. So then one more window will be opened with login UI. So that window will be focused and remaining will be like blur. So there we can actually use this blur function so that user can actually understand, okay, my details are already there. So I need to enter the username and password, or maybe email ID or password, or maybe mobile number and password. So that is that, and we will see this in action. So if I click this, so a window is opened, and let's say here I have defined this length as like 200. Let's extend this 300 by 200, and I have refreshed it. Window size has been increased. So that's how we can actually increase it. And now let's say there is 700, and this is maybe, yeah, let's say square 700 by 700. This is how it is. So this is how this blur function actually works. Yeah, thank you for attending the session.
In this video, we have covered all the concepts of JavaScript. I hope you found this video helpful. For the latest blogs and updates on trending technologies, follow us on our social media platforms, and for frequently asked interview questions on various technologies, stay tuned to www.hkrtrainings.com.